Hi everybody, this is Tina. Hope you guys are doing well today. If you are new to this channel, I am Tina of Rehatch Designs, and on this channel I do thrift flips, DIYs, upcycles. Anyway, today we're going to be kind of doing a combination of all of those, and I've got 10 different ones that I'm going to be showing you. So there's quite a lot in this video. You're definitely going to get your money's worth, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, please give me a thumbs up, a like, a share. It helps my little channel grow, and it lets me know that you like this type of video. It also lets YouTube know that you like it and they send you more. All right, well, enjoy.
All right, let's get straight to it. Project number one. I have this little jewelry box. I love collecting these little jewelry boxes. It's got this little metal thing on it that I'm going to be taking off. And I'm going to go ahead and clean it up. I clean it off with alcohol. I take the little metal parts off, any of them that I can get off. And then I'm going to go ahead and take apart the mirror portion on the inside and then the glass. And I'm going to tape off any of the parts on this that I want to make sure I don't get any paint on, because we're going to be painting this. And so I'm painting off taping off the hinges. You really don't want to get a lot of paint on that because you'll have a difficult time closing it. And I tape off all of the portions, where it has the lining, just so that I don't get paint on that. And I am going over this with one coat of primer, and this is by Paint Couture. This is the gray primer. I probably could have done it with a white, but I wanted to make sure that I could cover that dark color, because a lot of times it will bleed through. If I were using Fusion, I probably wouldn't have done the primer, but I am going to be using Paint Couture chalk paint on it. And I'm using the color Buttermilk by Paint Couture. It's just a chalk paint. It does not have a primer built in like Fusion, and it does not have a built-in top coat. And that's part of the reason I'm using it. I like using just regular chalk paint when I am going to be using any type of inlay. And right now what I'm doing is I am using the inlay by IOD, and this is Petite Floral Pink. And the way that you do an inlay is you put some paint down, you spritz your inlay, and then you lay it down, paint side down. And you want to make sure it's making good contact with the paint. And my thing with inlays is that they almost always turn out great if you have patience. I usually don't, because I'm usually doing a video. Make sure that your layers of paint underneath are dry when you add that top layer, because then when you go to peel the inlay off, you're going to peel off those other layers if they weren't dry, which you'll see me do later. But there's always ways to fix it. I absolutely love using inlays because it gives things a very hand painted look. And if you're in the resale business, every time I put something out with an inlay, it sells. I think because it looks very hand painted. And I love this Petite Fleur because it has so many little pieces in it that it works great for little things like this. So I'm doing the inlay portion on all of these, and I go through the same steps. Now that I've put the inlay on the box, this is just a little piece of chipboard. This is going to fit in the middle part where we have the glass and the mirror go. And you can use an inlay on anything really. So I'm just putting my paint on. I'm going through the same process that I would anywhere else. I'm spraying my paint side and I'm placing it down on top of the wet paint. I'm spritzing it one more time, and I always go over it and make sure that I get up any extra water. Okay, so I'm peeling off the inlay, and I have a little bit of paint that came up on the right hand side there, and that's really just because I did not allow the paint to dry underneath it. All you do is you spritz it and you let it set for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then you just peel off your inlay and you get this beautiful product, and it looks very, very hand painted. It's gorgeous. And I always dry it to make sure when I move things around, because I don't want to smudge it. So after I do all of that, I'm letting my inlays dry a little bit, and I am going over the metal portion with just some gilding wax. And what I did is I sprayed my entire box with a clear coat before I did this and let it dry. And now what I'm doing is I am taking some Paint Couture Amber Honey. It's a glaze, and I'm going over the whole thing just to give it a little bit of a vintage look. I want this to look like a vintage box that's been around for a long time, that's been hand painted, and it doesn't bother me if it has any little chips or imperfections, because I think that makes it look more authentic. And I absolutely love how it turned out, and I will probably price this for $32 in my booth. So project number 2. This one is fairly easy. I got a frame that is absolutely beautiful. I actually got 5 frames that were similar to this, all for $5. $5 total for all 5. So basically $1 frame. But they didn't have a back on it, so I'm going to go ahead to put a back on it. And this is pretty much the only foam board that I could find that I had. Definitely need to buy more. But anyway, I cut it out to the size that I needed. And I'm going to use this beautiful piece of decoupage paper. And all I'm doing is putting my decoupage medium down. I'm using Paint Couture's Decoupage Medium Matte. And after I get it down, before I put anything on top, I always use my heat gun. It acts very similar to the ironing method, and it gets all the wrinkles out. And now I'm going to go over the top. I trimmed it around the outside, probably not very straight, but anyway, I did trim it. And now what I'm doing is I'm going over the top and I'm stippling it on, and I'm using just a top coat by Paint Couture in satin. And what that's going to do, by the way I stipple it, it's going to make it look like it's a canvas. There wasn't any glass to this picture, so it looks like a canvas. And so after I put the back in, I cover the back with some paper and put the hanger on, and it is done. Easy flip, and I will sell this for $35. Okay, project number 3. We're moving pretty fast on these guys because we have 10. You know those little blanks that you always get, super cheap, usually in the thrift store. We're going to cover this one, and the top of it it's a paper, but I tried to get it off. I couldn't get it off, And my experience is when they're that stuck on there like that, don't even bother because you'll make a bigger mess. I am painting this with Fusion's Champness, beautiful blue color. I'm going over the whole thing with it. And Fusion does have a primer and a top coat built in. I love using Fusion paint on my flips because it saves time. And here we have this cute little bunny, this decoupage bunny. And what I'm going to do is I'm using the water method to kind of pull it apart. And I'm going to try and get it as close as I can to the image. So I'm kind of going in there and getting as much of that extra paper off as I can. And now what I'm going to do, guys, is I am going to take that same Fusion Champness and I am going to be adding some salt wash to it. And salt wash is an additive that will thicken up your paint. It also adds texture and it also makes things stick really well too. So I love salt wash, and I don't think baking soda even comes close. But I know people swear by baking soda, but I don't think it's the same, and I used other additives and they don't work as well. So anyway, what I'm doing is after my first coat has dried, I'm going over this and I'm stippling this on. You know, save those old kind of crunchy brushes. It works great for that. And I'm going to let that dry. And now what I'm doing is I am just taking some white chalk paint and I'm going to go over this back of this little decoupage paper to make it pop, because our little board is blue. And all I'm doing, I'm not going all the way to the end. I'm making sure that I leave the very end pieces not painted. I'm just basically going over the actual image itself, and I go over the whole thing with the white. And this is going to make the image pop on top of the blue. If you didn't do that, the image would not be as vibrant. And if you go all the way to the end, it kind of messes up it blending in. So I'm going to dry that. And then after that, I'm going to just cover it with Decoupage Medium by Paint Couture. And I'm just going to put this right on my little thing that we did. And I can move it around. I love using decoupage paper, the rice paper, because it's just very strong. It doesn't wrinkle very much. You do have to be careful you don't overwork it because it'll dissolve a little. But I'm making sure I get all those little end pieces down there flat, because we're going to try and blend all those in later to make this look like this image has been painted on. So we want to make sure that all of those little edges are in there good. And I always go over my image with my heat gun, and it works very similar to the ironing method. It will reactivate the glue and it'll take any bubbles or wrinkles out of your paper. I strongly recommend doing that. It works really well. So now what I'm doing is I am taking my leftover paint that has the salt wash in it, and I am going very close to the edge with a detail brush, and I am blending in all of those edges. And what that's going to do is it's going to blend in with the rest of it that we've already painted with the salt wash mixture, and it's going to make this whole thing look like it has been painted on when you're done. So now what I'm doing is I am going over the whole thing with a satin top coat by Paint Couture, and I'm stippling it on. I want that texture to show from the brush, and I'm putting a pretty good heavy layer on because I do want those brush strokes to show when it dries, and that's because I want this whole thing to look like it's been painted on there. So now that it's dry, I'm going over the whole thing, and I am using Amber Honey by Pink Couture. It's a little bit darker than the other color that we used before. And I'm going to go over the edges first, and then I'm going to go over the rest of it. And because we have a top coat on this already, it's not going to get overly dark. It's just going to vintage this up a little bit, and it's going to accentuate all of those brush strokes that we put in there and the texture that we added on it. And I wipe off most of it. I leave a lot more on the sides, but I wipe off most of it. And I absolutely love how this turned out, and I do think it looks like it's been painted on. And you know, taking something that I probably paid 25 cents for, and it looks really cute for Easter, and I will sell this for $18. So, project number 4. Hope you're still hanging out with me. Okay, another picture. I need artwork. This stuff sells in my booth extremely well. So this is a frame that I literally paid $1 for, and it's one of those plastic frames that you get all the time. It's a nice frame, but it's plastic, and it looks plastic. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my leftover salt wash mixture that has the Champness by Fusion and my salt wash, and I do this all the time on these plastic frames. First of all, Fusion sticks to it really well. It has a primer and a top coat, saves me steps, and it definitely sticks, and the salt wash helps it stick as well. And I go over it, and then I let it dry, and then the second coat, what I do is I'm going to stipple it on there because I want texture on this frame. And this is my way. I do all different colors and things. I have quite a few frames like this, and I do this, and it really elevates these frames and makes them look much more expensive than they are, and consequently I can sell things for more. It upgrades the frame quite a bit, and then it upgrades the whole thing. So after it's dry, because Fusion has a top coat built in, I don't have to do anything to it when I add my wax. If you do not have a paint that has a top coat, you would want to put a clear wax or a top coat on it before you do this part. Otherwise, it will probably make your paint too dark, unless you want that. So I am using Fusion's aging wax, which I absolutely love. I'm going over the whole thing with it, and I know that I can wipe it back because, again, Fusion has that top coat built in, and I can wipe it back quite a bit. I know it looks pretty dark right here, but I'm going to wipe it back quite a bit and leave it in all of the crevices or the little detail. There's not a lot of detail in this frame, but I wipe back a lot of it, and it does stick in a lot of those portions where we did put the salt wash, and that's the reason I put the salt wash, is to give it something to grab onto. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking this beautiful decoupage paper, and I'm using the glass that came in this frame, and I'm figuring out where to cut it. And I don't decoupage it on, I just set it inside the frame, and I'm cleaning the back of that frame up. And this is a super easy flip. I do these all the time, and I will sell this in my booth probably very quickly for $35. Okay, project number 5. We're halfway there, guys. Hang in there because this is a pretty quick video with a lot in it. So this is another decoupage paper, and this is the 2 pictures per page. And I'm going to go ahead and use that water method basically just to get the white off, but I always do that just because I love the organic look of the decoupage paper. Rice paper is very fibrous, so it gives you that very organic look. And I like my project to look like it was kind of painted on. And so I've already gone over this breadboard that I have. I had quite a few of these. They're really just for decorative use. They're kind of small, but they're great for doing these little projects. I've already gone over with one coat. I'm going over with a separate coat. One coat maybe would have done okay, but I'm doing two. And this is with that same Champness by Fusion. And I love using Fusion for these quick projects. So all I did is put some decoupage medium down, and I'm going to go ahead and put this gorgeous little print down, and you can see that blue matches so well with those beautiful birds. And I'm just going to kind of get the edges down with my fingers. Now this is a little bit of a bigger piece, and a lot of times on a bigger piece I will take a piece of saran wrap or a plastic baggie and go over it with my hands. The reason you don't want to just use your hands is decoupage paper. You don't want to overwork it, and your hands are very coarse, and it will rub them a little bit too much. And then I always take my heat gun, and that will definitely get any wrinkles that are in there out. And then I'm going to go over this with my satin clear coat by Paint Couture, and I'm stippling it on there again just like I did before. I put quite a lot of product on there because I am trying to leave brush marks on here. It definitely gives it a painted on look when you're done. I don't know, I just like how that looks. It's hard to see it, but it's definitely it does definitely give it a very painted on look. So now I'm going over this with Brown Sugar by Paint Couture, and their different glazes are fantastic to use on this type of situation. You could definitely use wax, but I do think that the glazes, when you do that kind of stippling method where you have a little bit of texture, or you know, you're trying to catch the edges a little bit, they tend to go in there a little bit better than wax in that situation. And I'm going to go ahead and wipe off a good deal of it, and then I put on some ribbons, and that is it, guys. It's super easy flip. I'll sell this for $18, and I think it turned out absolutely cute and adorable. All right, project number 6. So this is super easy, but I just wanted to say that this is something that I sell in my booth. Anytime I put French writing on things, for some reason they sell. Anyway, I have some little tiny, I think they're creamers. I bought them at a thrift store. They were $3 for both of them, and I am using the traditional POTS transfer by IOD. You get a lot of bang for your buck out of this. It has a lot of different transfers, and I'm using the blue ones. This is kind of a darker blue color, which is very on trend right now, and it is, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit more difficult to do a transfer on a small round object like this, but if you just put the transfer on and you cut the edges, and sometimes you can even cut into the transfer, and I always start in the middle and then rub, it definitely goes on pretty easy. And you want to burnish it, and then after you burnish it, I just take a little bit, I'm using Satin by Paint Couture. It's just a top coat, and I go over the edges of the transfer. You want to go over the edge just a little bit past the end of the transfer, and I go over the whole thing, and I do that on anything that you might want to be wiping clean that may be in the kitchen. If it's just a picture or something hanging on the wall, I don't do that. But I think these turned out super cute, and I'll sell both of these for $22. All right, project number 7. I am going to be using the IOD Brocante transfers, and this is another really great bang for your buck transfer book. And here in the Brocante, they have these wonderful French kind of labels. And I have these canisters that I've had in my stash for a really long time. And I just wipe them off with alcohol, make sure they're clean. And I'm just going to be putting these transfers on. They fit absolutely perfect. The color of these transfers is kind of a dark brown color. And they go fantastic on these beautiful ivory colored canisters, and I just think they're made for them. They fit perfectly, the color's great, and I just do all 3 of them, and I will go over them with my satin finish like I did on the others, because again, these will be in a kitchen. I mean, you can't put them in the dishwasher or anything, but when you do that, it does allow you to wipe them off later. And I do all 3 canisters. I make sure I burnish them, and then I go over them with the finish, and that's it. There's also a lot of typography on this one page, and if you wanted to, you could add more to these canisters, but I think it's just the perfect amount. One thing I have to say, when I do put any kind of French wording or any of these little transfers in my booth, they seem to sell extremely quick. So this is a super easy flip. I believe I purchased these canisters for $15, and I will sell these pretty quickly, I believe, and I'll probably sell them for about $38 to $42. So here they are all finished, and you can see how they just look like they were made for these canisters. And I'm tempted to keep them. I think they're beautiful. Very French country. Okay, project number 8. I believe this is probably my favorite. So I bought this little board. I think they were marked $3, but they were 90% off. And they had vinyl lettering, and I did another project recently with these. So I bet you can guess what they said. Anyway, I peeled off the vinyl. Whenever you can, do that. So I have this peat pot that I got off of Amazon. I will try and link it. Guys, if I forget, please remind me. And I just cut it a little bit more than in half, because you need to be able to fold the ends back on these, and you'll see later how I folded them back. But for the most part, you could just use just a regular piece of wood. But I mean, this probably cost me, I don't know, it was $3, 90% off. Y'all do the math. I'm not doing the math. So anyway, I have this wonderful piece of decoupage paper, and it has all these little chicks on it. And I'm going to cut out one of these little sections, and I'm going to cut out these little chicks. And I'm not even going to paint this. I'm going to just leave it the way it is. Basically, guys, I'm trying to do as many flips as I can lately. I am picking stuff up off the floor in my craft room and just making it and doing it. And there's really no rhyme or reason. It's just I'm doing it easy, so I can get as much stuff in my booth as I can. So I'm kind of gauging where I need to kind of tear this by putting it on top of that little pot. And of course I'm using my water and paintbrush method and gonna tear it. And now all I'm doing is I am going over this with some Paint Couture buttermilk, just because I want a kind of a solid white in the middle. I'm not going all the way up to the top, but wherever that decoupage paper is going to be covering, I'm going to go ahead and just have like a white background. And I am painting white on the edges, but I'm just barely dry brushing it because I just want a little of that white on the edges. And now I'm just adding some decoupage medium to the back of my rice paper and my decoupage image. And I'm going to go ahead and just put that right on the middle of that pot and get it kind of centered pretty well. Get that on there. Takes a few tries. But anyway, I get that on there, and of course I'm using my heat gun to make sure I don't have any wrinkles. And now all I'm going to do, you can see the back how I folded it in, and I'm going to fold it a little bit more. And I'm just folding it down so that I have something to glue to the back of this board. And these things are really, really light, so it works super, super easy for this project. And I'm going to take a little hot glue and I'm going to kind of press that back portion together so it doesn't flop open after. And this is a really, really easy project. It's a cost-effective project, and I think it turns out super cute. So you definitely want to put glue on the ends that are flat and kind of just glue it down. And you can kind of smush it down a little bit more. I actually smush it down a little bit more and then put a little bit more glue just because I want it a little bit flatter or tighter to the surface. And you just kind of play around with it to get it the way that you want. And I'm just going to kind of smush that around just like that. And I got a bunch of flowers and I kind of placed them in there just to see how I would want to put them in there. Just some random ones that I had laying around, and I couldn't tell you where I got them all. I got them, I'm sure, some at the Dollar Tree, some I probably bought online. Who knows? Maybe some from Temu. But anyway, I just kind of mess with them, get them the way I want. And now I'm going to take some Spanish moss and I'm going to put them in there. You definitely could take some floral foam and put that in there. And I put a little Spanish moss on top. And I'm just going to drill some holes in the top of this just to put a hanger. And I have some rusty wire that I'm going to put in there just to have a hanger on the top of it. I like the look of the rusty wire. I bought mine from Factory Direct Outlet, I believe. I think you can get it on Amazon also. And of course you can rust your own wire. But anyway, I'm just going to put that on there, and that's going to be my little hanger. And I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of that aging wax and go over this. Now I have already gone over this with my my top coat, so it's not going to get overly dark. I just wanted to darken up some of that white paint. And pretty much that's it, guys. And I really, really love this. I think it turned out super, super cute. for just a little board that I bought. And you could definitely mass make these and probably sell them pretty good. I'm going to sell this for $22 in my booth. Project number 9. We're almost to the end. Alright, so I picked this up at Dollar General, and they were $6 and buy one get one free, so it was $3. And I love buying these little tins that are black like this because immediately I think faux enamel. And I have made several of these and put them in my booth like this, and they sell super quick. So anyway, I'm going over this with Fusion paint, and I am using Picket Fence because Picket Fence is a very, very good white color, and I'm going to go over all of it. It takes about 2, maybe almost 3 coats because we're going over black. What's really great though is that Fusion does have a primer and a top coat, but I am going over it right now with a top coat, and because I want it to be super glossy. Fusion paint isn't glossy when you're done, it's pretty flat. So I went over it with the I used Paint Couture gloss. I think it is Extreme Guard gloss. And now I'm taking my traditional pots again, and this is the black, and I didn't bore you with putting that transfer on. And now I'm using the stamp from IOD. It's called Vintage Textures. I love, love, love this set. It has all of these little things to make your stuff look old. And I stamped it with some black IOD paint, but I am wiping it back to make it lighter. And I just put the crackle stamp all around it, and I just randomly go on different parts of the stamp so that it, you're not repeating the same pattern. And I do wipe it back quite a bit so it's on there pretty faint. And now here's another portion. This is, I think, like the chippy paint part of it. It's the same Vintage Textures. It has 4 different pieces of it. And this stuff, really, I love using this stuff. I love using these stamps. And so I'm going to go over this and make it look like it is chipped and old. And after I do that and I let it dry, I am going to go over the whole thing with some Amber Honey glaze by Paint Couture. And it is going to go ahead and just give this a little tint of being vintage to kind of go with the rest of it. And I love how this turns out. And I have done several of these type of things in my booth, and they always sell quickly. It just makes them look like they're vintage enamel, and that added with any kind of French, it's the combo seems to work really well. Anyway, so I wipe most of it back. And you can see a lot of brush strokes and stuff on this, but I actually like that look. It tends to catch the glaze, and I just love how the whole thing looks. I wiped off a little bit too much, so I'm going to go back. Remember, we did put that gloss finish on it. So now I'm going to go over it again after it's all done, because that glaze dulled it up a little bit, and I'm going to go over the whole thing on top of it with the Extreme Guard gloss just to give it that enamel look. And I absolutely love how this turned out. I'm sure it'll sell really quickly, and I will sell this for $28. All right, we made it. Project number 10. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Anyway, this is actually a project that I did last week that I didn't put in my video, but I did want to show you it. I think it turned out really cute. This is just a antique rolling pin, and I bought these relatively cheaply. I think I spent like $3 each for them, and I am just going over this with Highlander by Fusion. It's a wonderful red color. I think it looks very vintage. So I'm going over the handles with this, and I'm just doing the handles, and I'm going to do one coat just with the Highlander. And I'm going to distress this back, and the way I distress Fusion paint is I just take a wipe while it is still wet, and I will wipe some of it off. Fusion paint, it adheres to things so well that if you wait till it's dry, the only way to really get it off is to sand it. So anyway, that's what I do, and that's how it looks, and it dries super quick, so we have a very kind of vintage look. And now I have some some tissue paper that is a scrap piece of recycled paper, and I'm going to go ahead and just decoupage this straight on to the wood piece. You normally, I guess, when you're using tissue paper, would go ahead and paint your surface white, but I actually want that darker color to show through. And I am not very good with tissue paper. I really have a tough time with it. It just it's a lot harder to work with for me than the decoupage paper or the rice paper, because it wrinkles quite a bit. So anyway, I'm going over it, and I'm going to go ahead and try and get it on there as good as I can. And I'm having trouble with the wrinkling, but I do use my plastic bag method and go over it and get as many of those wrinkles out as I can. And I use my heat gun, and then when I'm done, I just wait for it to dry, and I'm sanding off the edges. And there is my vintage rolling pin, and I think it turned out really, really nice. I love it. I will definitely be doing my other ones. I've had them sitting around forever, and I will sell this for $22. Well, we made it to the end. If you are interested in Fusion paint, Paint Couture, Sweet Pickins Milk Paint, IOD, the decoupage paper, you can purchase that on my website, rehatchdesigns.com. The link is in the description. $50 or more will get you free shipping. Under $50, flat rate shipping of $8. I'm running some really big sales right now. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. And I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe if you liked it and you would like to see more. It really helps out my little channel. And I will be uploading another video next week. I'm not sure what day yet, so it's best to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when I upload a video. And I will see you guys again soon, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.